Somewhere on the island of Crete there is a tree. It is not tall. It is not straight. Its trunk has been twisted by centuries of wind, warped and hollowed by time. Its bark is the color of old bone. But this tree was alive when the Egyptian pharaohs still ruled the known world. It was alive when Moses walked, when Rome was built, when the Prophet Muhammad received his first revelation, when the Crusaders marched through Jerusalem. It was alive before your country existed, before your language existed. And today, right now, it still produces fruit. This is the story of the olive tree. A tree so ancient, so sacred, so deeply woven into the fabric of human civilization, that to tell its story is to tell the story of humanity itself. To understand the olive tree, you must travel back, far back, to a place the ancient world called the Fertile Crescent. 6,000 years ago, before the wheel was in widespread use, before writing had been invented, farmers in what is now Iran, Syria and Palestine were already cultivating a small, unremarkable tree with silver-green leaves and bitter fruit. They had discovered something remarkable. When you press the fruit of this tree, it releases an oil unlike anything else in nature. An oil that could fuel a lamp through the darkest night. An oil that could preserve food for months. An oil that could heal a wound, soften skin, and soothe a sore joint. They did not know its chemistry. They did not understand its biology. But they knew, in the way that ancient people knew things, through necessity, through observation, through survival, that this tree was extraordinary. By 3000 BC, olive trees were being carefully cultivated on the island of Crete. And here something remarkable happened. The olive didn't just feed people, it made them rich. Historians now believe that the great wealth of the Minoan civilization, one of the most advanced cultures of the ancient world, was built in part on olive oil. It was their gold, their petroleum, the commodity that fueled an entire empire. The Phoenicians, the great sailors and traders of the ancient Mediterranean, took the olive further. They carried it in their ships to the shores of Africa, to the coasts of Spain, to the islands of Greece. Wherever Phoenician traders went, olive trees followed. And so, over thousands of years, a tree born in the Middle East slowly conquered the ancient world. Not through armies, not through conquest, but through its extraordinary usefulness. By the time the great civilizations of Greece and Rome rose to power, the olive tree was already ancient, already sacred, already woven so deeply into human culture that no one could remember a world without it. In Judaism, the olive tree does not merely feed the body, it feeds the soul. The very first mention of the olive in the Hebrew Bible comes from one of humanity's oldest stories. After the great flood, Noah releases a dove from the ark. The dove returns, and in its beak, an olive leaf. That single image, a bird carrying an olive branch, became one of the most powerful symbols in all of human history. It meant the waters had receded. It meant the earth had survived. It meant there was hope. For the Jewish people, the olive branch has meant peace ever since. But the olive's connection to Judaism runs far deeper than a single story. In ancient Israel, olive oil was not merely food. It was the substance of consecration. Kings were anointed with it. Priests were anointed with it. The very word Messiah, in Hebrew, Hamashiach, means the anointed one, anointed with olive oil. The menorah, perhaps the most enduring symbol of Jewish faith, burned on olive oil. In the Second Temple in Jerusalem, the eternal flame was kept alive with oil pressed from olives grown in the hills around the city. And then there is the Mount of Olives itself. A hill so saturated with sacred history that it has been used as a Jewish burial site for more than 3,000 years. Some of the most important figures in Jewish history lie buried there, beneath the shadow of ancient olive trees that still stand today. In Jewish law, these trees and the consecrated ground around them are to be protected forever. The olive tree and eternity, it seems, have always belonged together. At the foot of the Mount of Olives, in a garden called Gethsemane, a word taken from the Aramaic for olive press, there is a grove of trees unlike any other on earth. These trees have been scientifically dated. Their roots, tested by researchers from Italy's National Research Council, were found to be over 900 years old. But many historians believe the trees themselves are far older, possibly direct descendants of the very trees that stood here 2,000 years ago. The trees that may have stood silently, as Jesus of Nazareth knelt in the darkness and prayed. The Gospels describe this garden as a place Jesus returned to regularly, a place of quiet, of prayer, of refuge. It was here on the night before his crucifixion that he came to pray one final time. It was here that Judas led the soldiers to arrest him. Gethsemane, the olive press, a place where something is crushed to release what is most precious. The symbolism is almost impossible to ignore. For Christians, the olive branch carries the peace of Noah. The olive oil carries the anointing of kings and prophets. And the Garden of Gethsemane, that quiet grove of ancient trees, carries the weight of the entire Christian story. Today, the Church of All Nations stands beside the garden, its golden mosaic ceiling catching the light above the stone where tradition says Jesus knelt. Outside, the ancient olive trees still stand, still growing, still bearing fruit. The olive tree does not forget. The oldest mosque in Tunisia is called Al-Zaytuna. In Arabic, Zaytuna means the olive. In Islam, the olive tree holds a place of profound spiritual significance, rooted directly in the words of the Quran. In Surah Al-Nur, the 24th chapter, God is described through the imagery of light, a light burning in a glass, fed by oil pressed from a blessed olive tree. Neither of the east nor of the west, the verse says, whose oil would almost glow even if no fire touched it. The olive tree, in Islamic understanding, is blessed. It is a tree from the sacred land, from the earth of Jerusalem and Palestine, which Islamic tradition regards as holy ground. The Prophet Muhammad spoke of the olive tree directly. He advised his followers to apply its oil to their bodies, to use it in their daily lives. He called it the oil of a blessed tree, and encouraged his companions to consume it and anoint themselves with it. For more than 1,400 years, olive oil has been used in the Islamic world not just as food, but as a source of healing, of light, and of connection to the divine. The word zaytun and olive appears multiple times in the Quran. It is listed among the sacred fruits of paradise. And in the ancient mosques of the Islamic world, olive oil lamps burned for centuries, filling the air with their warm, golden light. A tree from the same hills, a flame from the same oil. Different faiths, looking at the same tree and finding something holy. But long before the Abrahamic faith shaped the world, the olive tree had already conquered the imagination of an older civilization, one that told its stories through gods. In ancient Greece, two gods stood at the edge of a great rock above a new city, locked in a contest that would decide its very name. Poseidon, god of the sea, god of storms, god of earthquakes, struck the rock with his trident. Salt water burst from the stone. He offered dominion over the sea, trade routes, naval power, the wealth of the ocean. Then Athena, goddess of wisdom, knelt down, and from the barren rock she coaxed a tree to grow, an olive tree. The people of the city looked at Poseidon's salt water, useful for ships but not for drinking, not for farming. Then they looked at Athena's olive tree. Good for food, for oil, for lamp fuel, for medicine, for trade. They chose the tree. And so the city was named Athens. To the ancient Greeks, this was not merely a myth. It was the founding truth of their civilization. The acknowledgement that wisdom, represented by the olive tree, is more powerful than force. At the ancient Olympic Games, the world's first international sporting event, winners were not given gold medals. They were given a wreath cut from the sacred wild olive tree near the temple of Zeus at Olympia, a tree, according to legend, planted by Hercules himself. Across the Acropolis, sacred olive groves were tended by the state. The oil pressed from these trees was considered so precious, so divine, that ancient writers claimed it was worth more than gold. A tree so sacred that to cut one down, even your own, was a crime punishable by exile. When Rome rose to power and began consuming the world, it found in the olive tree the perfect partner for empire. The Romans were not the first to cultivate the olive, but they were the greatest industrialists of the ancient world, and they turned olive oil production into something no civilization had ever seen before. A continent-spanning supply chain. From Spain to Syria, from North Africa to France, Roman colonizers planted olive groves wherever the climate allowed. They pressed oil by the millions of gallons. They stored it in terracotta amphorae, clay jars that have been found in Roman shipwrecks at the bottom of the Mediterranean, still sealed 2,000 years later. For the Romans, olive oil was everything. It was their cooking medium, their soap, their skin moisturizer, their fuel for the lamps that lit their cities after dark, their lubricant for machinery, their medicine for the sick, their ritual anointing for the dead. The Roman author Pliny the Elder wrote that Italy had the finest olive oil in the entire world. He was, of course, Roman, but the point stands. Olive oil was not just commerce. It was identity. As Roman legions marched into new territories, olive trees followed. The Roman missionaries, who later spread Christianity into the British Isles and beyond, brought olive oil for their ceremonies. The tree that had started in the hills of the ancient Near East had now, through Roman hands, reached the edges of the known world. In a small village on the western coast of Crete, an island where the olive tree has been grown for 5,000 years, there is a tree unlike any other on Earth. It is called the Vouves olive tree. Its trunk measures nearly 5 meters in circumference. Its wood is so gnarled, so layered with time, that it almost appears to breathe. Scientists have attempted to date it using various methods. Their best estimate: this tree is over 3,000 years old. 3,000 years. That means this tree was already a century old when King David ruled in Jerusalem. It was already ancient when Homer composed the Iliad, when Buddha was born in India, when the Roman Republic was founded. And here is what makes the Vouves olive tree truly astonishing. It still produces olives. Every single year, the village of Vouves has built a small museum around it. People travel from across the world to stand beside it, to place their hands against its bark and feel something they cannot quite name. When Athens hosted the 2004 Olympic Games, the wreaths worn by the athletes were made from branches cut from the Vouves tree. A living connection, stretching across 3 millennia, between the ancient Olympics and the modern world. The tree does not know it is famous. It does not know it is ancient. It simply grows. It simply lives. It outlasted pharaohs. It outlasted empires. It has survived earthquakes, invasions, droughts, and the slow passage of millennia, and it will, in all likelihood, outlast us too. For thousands of years, people used the olive tree as medicine without understanding why it worked. Today, Science has given us the answer. The olive, its fruit, its oil, and even its leaves, contain some of the most powerful natural compounds ever studied. Chief among them is oleocanthal, a natural anti-inflammatory that works at a molecular level in a manner remarkably similar to ibuprofen. Every tablespoon of high-quality olive oil contains a small but meaningful anti-inflammatory dose. Then there are the polyphenols. These are antioxidant compounds found in abundance in extra virgin olive oil. Studies from Harvard, from the University of Barcelona, from research institutions across the world, have found that regular consumption of olive oil is linked to reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, lower blood pressure, reduced risk of type 2 diabetes, improved brain health, and a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease, and significantly lower rates of certain cancers. The longest living populations on Earth, the people of Sardinia, of Icaria, of Crete, all share one dietary constant: they consume enormous quantities of olive oil. The olive leaf, often discarded, may be the most potent part of the tree, rich in a compound called oleuropein, the substance that gives unripe olives their bitter taste. Olive leaf extract has shown antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties in laboratory studies. It was not always the laboratory that led the way. For centuries, traditional healers in Greece, Palestine, Egypt, and North Africa were already using olive leaf preparations to treat fever, to heal wounds, to fight infection. They knew. They had always known. The ancient world understood in its own language what modern science is only beginning to articulate: that the olive tree is not merely food. It is medicine. It is longevity. It is life itself. We began this story with a tree on Crete, a tree twisted by wind and time, a tree that has lived through the rise and fall of civilizations, a tree that fed pharaohs and inspired philosophers, that sheltered prophets and anointed kings. 6,000 years ago, somewhere in the ancient Near East, a human being tasted the bitter fruit of a wild olive tree and decided it was worth cultivating, worth protecting, worth passing down. That single decision echoes forward through all of human history. In the Bible, the olive branch means peace. In the Quran, the olive tree is blessed. In Greek mythology, it represents the gift of wisdom. In Roman civilization, it powered an empire. And in every culture it has ever touched, the olive tree has carried a single unspoken message: that life endures, that something ancient can still be living, that roots, real roots, sunk deep into the earth across centuries, hold. The next time you pour olive oil into your hands, the next time you taste an olive bitter and rich and old, the next time you see an olive branch in a painting, on a seal, on the emblem of the United Nations itself, remember what it carries: 6,000 years of human history. 3 of the world's great religions: the mythology of Athens, the engineering of Rome, the medical wisdom of a dozen ancient civilizations, and a tree in Crete that was old before the world was young, and is still, quietly, remarkably, alive. This has been Roots of Earth. If this tree's story moved you, share it, because some stories are too important to let fade.